to another episode of On the Line. Today we have a very interesting topic. Is it ever okay or appropriate for a staff member to use an inmate's first name? I did this on the Tear Talk channel, got a lot of good feedback, and I wanted to kind of bring this content over to On the Line to get your thoughts as well. And of course, we're going to be sharing the dialogue with author Connie Alleyne. What's up, Connie?
Hi, everybody. Connie Alleyne here. I'm the founder and president of the Civilian Corrections Academy and host of my podcast. God, it's so bad. Because every time I look at you, it makes me nervous. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Right. Podcast, The Fly Behind the Wall, and the author of The Cage with Sir Cocoon. So I think today's topic is just a really great one for us to talk about, just because I think there's so much that goes into a first name.
Well, you said before we go on to the topic, you said I make you nervous. I've been going to the gym. No, I have. I've been going to the gym, and just by what you said, I'm going to take that as a compliment because obviously you're noticing things. No, I'm kidding. Not at all, guys. I know a gym. I haven't been to a gym. Yeah. Well, that was make you nervous. I like that.
Oh my God! You always remind me every time I go to say it. You give me the look like
I was already looking at you, but I took you. I'm going to make you nervous. I brought that into my world now. By how I feel now. Hey guys, again, just having some fun. So the reason why we came up with this dialogue is because I remember when I was a rookie. I remember seeing senior staff interacting with the inmates, and I did see an exchange of first names. I did see the staff call the inmates by their first names, and I did see in some cases the inmates call staff by their first name. So let's just go right off the bat. The latter, the inmates call staff by the first names, unacceptable. Unacceptable at any level. But just to go back, so I didn't know how I felt with that interaction, being new to the field, because I'm like, you know what? These officers got time in, these inmates got time in. Maybe that's acceptable. I don't know. I was a rookie. But as time progresses, and I've been in this profession now 18 years, it's really not acceptable, but there could be times where you can use the first name as a tool, and me and Connie, of course, will explore that. But Connie, have you ever dealt with that, staff members using inmates' first names?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think as we do our best to always be professional. And I think there's been that longstanding debate, right? Do I call them Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jones? Do I call them by their first name or not? And then, what does that do from a medical perspective? It's the intention to sort of make the encounter personal and build trust and build rapport and all of that good stuff, right? But I also know that in our environment, as much as we want to build that rapport and everything, using the first name could also put us in a very negative space. So I think, it's certainly knowing the appropriate time and place to do that, simply because we could be sending different signals to the inmate based on that.
Right. I've noticed that because I did this for the other channel, Tear Talk. I've had some officers say, Gangi, I don't use it all the time, but I've used it when I had to deal with inmates that were having mental health breakdowns, or maybe just to have a connection because there's a job that has to be done. So I'm going to give you a bit of a scenario where I employed it. And I did use it, but again, I used it as a tool. And by the way, guys, if the first name of an inmate is thrown out rather every day as a routine, the effectiveness of using the first name as a tool to de-escalate, it doesn't exist. It's better if, it could be employed, but here's when I did it, just as a story. I remember interacting with a female inmate who had just gotten assaulted. Again, only seeing me as the officer, me only really seeing her as the inmate. But with that said, I needed information to protect that inmate. And she didn't trust me as an officer. I mean, it just happens to me. I'm not going to be the best officer in the world, but sometimes there are just those inmates that you represent the other side. And, building a trust with the officer kind of conflicts with what they were brought up in. where you're just the opposite of what can be trusted. So at one point, in order to protect this inmate to do what's correct, I need information. And again, the goal is correct. I want to protect the inmate, but I also want to motivate the inmate to tell me what's happening, and to build that level of trust. So at that point here, and it was a one-time tool only, I did use the inmate's first name. I used the inmate's first name to see if I can connect with her as a human, get the information I needed in an effort to protect the inmate, and then go ahead and go back to Miss whatever the last name was. But sometimes it really is. Like, I like even the ones that are saying when the inmate's having a mental health breakdown, sitting the inmate down and saying, hey, Connie, slow it down. And then eventually going right back later on when things have calmed, back to that normal working relationship. But at no time ever am I saying that the inmate's going to say, hey, Gangi, sit down. Or I'm sorry, hey, Anthony, sit down. Sorry, everybody calls me Gangi, regardless if first name or last name, everybody calls me Gangi. But an inmate's not going to have that level of control over you where that first name is that value of a tool. Where in this case here, I do see it as, again, not being routine, but could be employed in an effort to de-escalate or in some cases find out information. But for those that are using it haphazardly, like Connie said, it is, in my mind, it is very undue. It crosses into, I don't see this person as an officer. You don't see me as an inmate. Now I see you as Tony and you see me as Bob. And it's a lot harder to write Bob up as opposed to writing inmate Smith up, and again, they try to build that connection because they want to connect with you outside of that label, and dropping officer, automatically drops inmate on the other side. So now dropping the last name, Gangi, the level of professionalism now has a chance of dropping the last name on the inmate side. So what do you have now? Anthony and Bob. To me, it sets up a very undue relationship, right, Connie?
Absolutely. So I feel like, once we start losing our respective titles and we start losing just the respective last name, we introduce a level of familiarity that we may not intend on introducing. That's how I talk to my friends, right? So what's up, Tony? How was today? Right? As opposed to me saying, hey, Mr. Gangi, would you be able to give me X, Y, or Z, right? Like, it really changes the feel of the conversation. And, people act off of feelings, right? So I did that because I thought we were cool, right? Right. And how do you refute that, right? When in fact, you're on a first name basis with this person. And so I think that when we start to throw out those labels that remind us where the boundaries are, that's when we're more likely to cross them, because now those things that remind us of the boundaries are no longer in play.
Right. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. It just opens up, like Connie said, a different dynamic, a dynamic that pushes the staff member out of their prescribed role in an effort to build on a level of commonality. Now, again, I said it's a tool when properly used, but definitely should never be used excessively or routine as a day-to-day thing. I strongly disagree with that. I've had inmates in my units for years, and I've never used their first name. I don't care how long they know me. But if there are times that are problematic, in an effort to de-escalate or move things forward, then yes, I may have broken bread. And then at that point, that's to build the rapport needed to get to the next step I got to get to, but then going right back to where that prescribed role is. But don't forget, guys, I chose that. I'm in control, and then I'm going to bring it back. At no time I'm leaving it there. And just, again, be careful when you have your conversation. Inmates shouldn't really know your first name. I'm not saying they can't find out. They can find out through charges, or, sometimes people call people's first name on the radio, which is ridiculous. Yeah, Connie's laughing, but she knows. So just be very careful. That try to protect it at all costs. But if it ever gets found out, which it could, you're limited how much you can protect it. But if it ever gets found out, make it known to the inmate that's unacceptable the moment they try to utilize it. Connie, anything you want to say in closing?
I would just like to say that there are always going to be times, or there are very specific times where it would be appropriate to address an inmate by his or her first name. And I think that as we are on the job longer, we are able to identify those times. I would say specifically, I know in medical, we had, someone dies, right? Someone has a family member who dies or something. Like, we're not gonna, I mean, you're trying to not necessarily console that person, but keep that person in a positive or as positive as possible state of mind. And so with that, you may say, hey, Jenny, I'm so sorry about this, right? But like on any other day, this is inmate Sanchez. This isn't Jenny, right? And so I think knowing when to utilize it really just keeps you and the rest of us safe.
And that's always the key. That's always the key. That's why we do these videos, to keep things safe. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show On the Line, don't forget, guys, subscribe, interact, engage, hit that bell, because again, we're producing content up weekly, very good content that you guys could get a lot from. And also, if you have any suggestions, let us know. We'll be more than willing to, look through those suggestions and maybe put some content that you feel is relevant to you, your specific situation. We're more than happy to always try and, give a shot and answer some questions. Connie's book's on the market, Caterers a Cocoon. My book's on the market, Inmate Manipulation Decoded. So if you guys are interested, feel free to check it out on Amazon. And guys, as always, the key here is stay safe.